Hi, Kinders. Today we're going to learn about special kinds of trees. The one we're going to read about today is called a deciduous tree. Now, a deciduous tree is a tree that has leaves that fall off in the fall. It's different than an evergreen. An evergreen has needles or pine leaves. They are leaves on the pine tree, but the deciduous tree, you see them around all the time, and we like to play in their leaves when they fall. They grow leaves, the leaves change colors, and then they begin to fall. So we may be going outside and walk around and see if you can find deciduous trees today. The word bare, let's go over our vocabulary. Bare means without any covering. Now, there's a bear like the animal bear, and it sounds the same, but it is spelled differently. So, we're going to talk about the word bare. That means something without covering. The word deciduous means that it's going to lose its leaves every year. A deciduous tree starts losing leaves in the autumn or the fall. Dormant. Dormant means that it is not active and it's asleep. Maybe you're dormant at night when you're not doing anything and you're sleeping. Habitat. A habitat is a place where animals or plants live that has food, water, and shelter. Example, a plant that needs a lot of water lives in a habitat where there is a lot of rain. Sheds. Sheds has two meanings as well. A shed can be a little building. This shed means when something loses or drops or separates from something else. Like a dog sheds its hair from its coat. And whenever he lies down, shedding happens. Trees also shed their leaves, or in other words, it falls out. Let's talk about what you see in this picture. This is a picture of a forest. Forests are made up of many trees and other plants. What time of year do you think this is? You're right. It looks like winter. How did you know that? Because there's snow. Yes, correct. What living things do you see in this picture? And no, most of you said trees. You were right. They're still living, whether they have their leaves on or not, even though they may look like they're dead because they don't have leaves. Now, how are these trees different from one another? Look closely at the picture. We have ones that are green and ones that are not. The pine trees are skinny. Yes, that's true. And the deciduous trees are kind of fluffy, but they don't have any leaves on them at this time of year. The pine trees look like they hold a lot more snow on their leaves as well. The pine trees in this picture are called evergreens because they're always green and they still have their leaves. Yep, pine needles are leaves. A good way to remember these trees is by the word ever. The word ever means always, so an evergreen tree is always green. Can you see the green tree in this picture? Yes, that is the green tree. Now, deciduous trees do not keep their leaves in the winter. Deciduous means that the trees lose their leaves. Deciduous. All right, let's get on with our story today. There are many different kinds of plants in the world. Although each one is unique and special in its own way, most plants found on the land are either deciduous or evergreen. Remember, a deciduous plant is one that loses its leaves, and an evergreen plant is one that does not lose its leaves, and it's always green. This is a picture of an apple tree, but it's in the winter time. An apple tree sheds its leaves every fall, so it's a deciduous tree. Remember, the word shed means loses or drops off. Deciduous is a tricky word to say because it has four parts. So let's say that word together. Let's clap out the syllables. Deciduous. Say it again. Deciduous. The 4 parts of the word deciduous can actually help you remember the tree because it changes in the 4 seasons. Seasons happen in a cycle or in a circle over and over again. It has spring, summer, fall, and winter. Let's start with spring, when things are new and starting to grow. Here's our same tree. In the spring, this apple tree produces new leaves and apple blossoms or flowers. Remember Polly the honeybee? This is the time of year when she starts taking nectar from the inside of the flowers. When she flies from flower to flower, she helps spread pollen. That's going to help the apple tree grow. In the summer, the apple tree grows many more green leaves and apples begin to grow out of the blossoms. In the fall, the apples of the tree are fully grown and ready to pick. The leaves on the apple tree start to change to red and yellow, and they fall off on the ground. Over the time, the leaves on the ground will break down into tiny little pieces and become nutrients in the soil. Now, remember what nutrients are? Yeah, that's like the vitamins and food for a plant. Now, here's our apple tree in the winter time. Remember, the seasons repeat in a cycle over and over. This apple tree has bare branches. Yep, bare. That doesn't mean he's naked, but sometimes people say, oh, he's naked. So the tree is bare. That means he doesn't have branches again. They're empty without coverings or leaves. And that's because plants do not get much sunlight during the winter as they do in the summer. So during the spring and summer, the apple tree's habitat, now habitat's where an animal or plant lives, the weather becomes cold and there's less light from the sun. With less light from the sun, the trees cannot make food through photosynthesis. Oh, remember our word, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, photosynthesis. That's how plants get energy from the sun. And with less light, the tree's leaves can't make the food. So because the apple tree cannot make food in the winter, it must conserve or save its energy. And it does this by becoming dormant. Dormant means to be kind of asleep or not active. Pretend you are sleeping. Let's pretend you're the apple tree sleeping and becoming dormant. When the apple tree grows dormant, it stops making those leaves and blossoms and apples, and its branches become bare. Let's take a look at all 4 seasons on our tree. Of course, we have spring, summer, fall, or winter and fall. However, the seasons do come in an order. Will you point to the tree that has spring? If you're in the upper right corner, you are correct, right here. Let's point to the apple tree that is summer. Right here, that is correct. Then it goes to fall, and then it goes to winter. So if you notice, it goes around and around in a circle. That's why it's called a cycle. This image shows our apple tree in all 4 seasons. Remember, the apple tree is a deciduous tree, and because it's a deciduous tree, it loses its leaves every year. In the spring, it comes nice looking with its white blossoms and small green leaves. In the summer, you can climb in its branches and sit in the shade of it in the large green leaves and admire the apples that as they grow. In the fall, you can pick the apple tree's fruit and watch its leaves change color before falling off. And in the winter, you can play in the snow under its branches. And although trees are special to us in many ways, it's important to remember that trees are also very important in nature. Trees, more than any other plant, help clean the air and help make the air safe for us to breathe, which you will learn more about later on or eventually. They also provide food and homes for countless animals. So next time you see a big tree, wrap your arms around it and give it a great big hug, just to show you understand how important it is. Let's check for some understanding. A deciduous tree produces new leaves and blossoms. What season does it do that in? If you said spring, you were correct. An apple tree begins to produce apples this time of year. Again, summer, yes. A deciduous tree's leaves fall off. There's a key word in that sentence. In the fall, yes, or the autumn, yes. A deciduous tree has bare branches. Yes, winter. You did a great job on that. Let's check our comprehension. What are deciduous plants? If you said that deciduous plants are the ones that lose their leaves, you were correct. Number 2, how do deciduous plants change through the year? For example, how does an apple tree change through the year? If you look at our picture, you can kind of get clues. In the spring, yes, it gets its new leaves and flowers. In the summer, it produces its fruit and has darker green leaves. In the fall, the fruit is picked and the leaves change to yummy colors like, yummy yellow, really red, and beautiful autumn colors. And in the winter, the tree's leaves are bare and he goes dormant. Why are deciduous plants bare in the winter? You were right. They don't get enough sunlight, so they have to drop their leaves and they go dormant for the winter. Let's work on some word work. Today you heard in this read aloud that the apple tree has bare branches, meaning they're empty or without covering. Say the word bare with me. Bare. Now, we might talk about parts of our body being bare, such as our bare feet or our bare arms, or cupboards that don't have anything in them are bare. Can you think of some things you might describe as bare? Talk with an adult or someone else or a partner and discuss what you might think could be bare. What's the word we've been talking about? Bare. Let's do a follow-up activity. I'm going to read some sentences. If I say something is bare, you say blank is bare. If I say something that is not bare, say blank is not bare. Remember to answer in a complete sentence. A complete sentence is when we restate the question in the sentence. The branches of the trees are covered with leaves. So you would say, the branches of the trees are not bare. My hands are cold because they are not covered. You would say, my hands are bare. There is nothing on my desk. You would say, my desk is bare. The ground is covered with acorns. You would say, the ground is not bare. My grandfather has no hat on his head. You might say, my grandfather has no hair on his head either, but my grandfather's head is bare. Well, thank you for listening today and doing our activities. I hope you're learning stuff about the seasons and today's topic, deciduous trees.